Well, retail sales have slumped almost 4% in December following 11 consecutive monthly rises. The large fall suggests Aussies have finally begun to cut their spending, which the Reserve Bank will be pleased to see, as retail spending does, of course, play a key role in inflation. For more analysis, let's bring in live from the Australian Retailers Association, their Chief Industry Affairs Officer, Fleur Brown. Fleur, appreciate your time. Thank you. What's your take on this data released a short time ago? What do these spending levels indicate to you is happening more broadly in the economy?
Well, we do anticipate a slowdown this year. Certainly, there is a lag effect for retail spending when it comes to cost of living pressures, and we expect that lag effect will be very much felt this year as we head further into the year. However, these numbers are actually still very strong. What we pay more attention to is the year-on-year growth because no retail month is the same, so we tend to compare year on year rather than month versus month. So we also tend to look at November and December together because, of course, that hosts the Christmas and Boxing Day spending period. These numbers are quite in line with our expectations. If you combine them, we're looking at about just a little over $70 billion worth of spending for both those months, which is broadly in line with what our expectations were. So still a really good result, up in December year on year by about 7.5%. You can see we're starting to see the impact of inflation there, levelling off some of those margins for retailers as well.
Interesting to hear that you wrap in November and December together, because we have seen a bit of a shift, haven't we, in spending at that time in recent years. There's those big Black Friday sales and others in November. I mean, that surely would have had an impact on December spending.
Absolutely, yeah, that's well noted there. We saw a record spend for Black Friday and Boxing Day this year, and we do know that increasingly Australians have brought their spending forward. There's a range of factors there. Of course, we've had many supply chain challenges. They are ongoing. Australians were really cognizant of that. Retailers were trying to educate them, as well as Australia Post this year. People wanted to get their parcels in the post early, and also there was a factor there with people being quite conscious of getting in ahead of price increases. So we certainly feel that November sales were probably a little healthier as a consequence of that earlier spending this year.
So when we look at this latest data, are certain retail sectors experiencing these drops differently to others?
They are. It's a little swings and roundabouts. So we saw through the pandemic certain categories, there was a lot of nesting going on, were doing quite well. Household goods, for example, had quite a boost through the pandemic period. They've dropped off a little in this latest result. Food and clothing have still fairly strong results, a little bit of a slowdown in food, but certainly clothing, personal accessories, department stores, they're starting to see a little bit of a return to, I guess, post-pandemic normality, a very welcome result. People are back at work, they're back in the office a little bit more. We know people are getting out and about, they're going out, they're, wining and dining at the moment, still a little bit of that freedom spending happening. And of course, they are returning to the office and they need to be appropriately attired for that. So that's a very welcome result because those categories of retail were quite damaged through the pandemic period.
So what are the other big challenges confronting retailers as we really get into this year? I assume the skills shortage is still a biggie.
Look, we're most concerned for small business this year. The cost of doing business continues to be, a real challenge. There's so many different layers of cost increase coming at business, and for small business in particular, there's a real cash flow challenge there. So just to take one example and isolate it, having to pay upfront a lot earlier in the piece for goods that you might be getting from overseas, which of course are subject to even more intense inflationary pressures than what you're seeing here. So that cash outlay for small business, whilst they're still in recovery, can be a significant challenge. And that's something we've certainly put on our federal government agenda to have discussions about this year. We don't want to see small business fall over in what should hopefully be a period of recovery for them.
Yep, no one would want to see that. Fleur Brown, always appreciate you joining us with your analysis. Thank you.